Merry Christmas, uh, Hariom and Namo Narayan. I just wanted to conclude my talk today on aliens and UFOs, or extraterrestrials and UFOs. I started it this morning at 6 o'clock, early morning, had a talk with Max Rampel, a scientist and a channeler, and he's written 3 books on aliens. So it was a great talk. So with Max and Karen and Rita, and I just wanted to add a few more experiences to just wrap everything up today, being the 24th of December. So I won't have to talk much more about it. So I don't plan on talking much more about this subject. Next year, I'm just going to focus on the yoga subjects, but I wanted to wrap up this today. So this morning, I spoke about a few things, but I'm going to run through everything. I think I spoke about 8 or 10 different experiences with Max. Well, I've got about 17 or 18 that I want to just wrap up tonight before I conclude this subject. So I've tried to put them in chronological order, but they're a little bit out because I added a couple later on. So number one was when I finished the 3-month Kriya Yoga retreat in Sweden. I went to Copenhagen, Denmark, and that night I was contacted by very tall, in my astral dream, a very tall, beautiful, I might add, very beautiful, very tall, strong, amazing looking female come into my dream. And immediately I thought, wow, I've really hit the jackpot. This woman is beautiful, like I'm 6'1", she was like 6'6" or more, really, really tall. And she's really beautiful, really long legs, beautiful long blonde hair. And she was talking to me about looking for someone, or a male from New South Wales, Australia, and she wanted to talk to clairaudient males from New South Wales. So she was looking for me, and she was gathering telemetry, and I didn't even know what that word meant. So until later on, I had to look it up, what telemetry was. I thought, this is amazing. I just thought she was looking really beautiful, really hot. I thought, wow, this is amazing. What am I in for tonight? So that was the first experience. And I might say before that, as I mentioned in that video with Max, that was in 1985. I went to a UFO and alien expo, and that was really amazing. And the next year I had darshan of my guru, who I had not even met. I didn't meet him for 2 years later, and he appeared in my darkened bedroom like a hologram, darshan, full size from the waist up, and he was talking to me telepathically. So that was, and half an hour later, or maybe an hour later, in my meditation, I had Kundalini awakening for the very first time. So this is 1986. So now I'm talking about 2011, right? So that was first thing about telepathy that I was aware of with Swamiji in 1986. Now I'm talking about 2011. I was contacted by an alien woman who I was later told in a channeling session with via Jim Charles in 2020, via Tolskaha, who is a Pleiadian king, that the lady female that contacted me, was a Nordic Pleiadian. So that was 2011. So 2012, experience number two, I was laying in bed half asleep. I spoke about this morning. I was laying in bed half asleep and started to hear voices like I was doing yoga nidra, half asleep, still aware in my astral body. I started to hear voices. Then I thought to myself, where is this information coming from? Then I heard very clearly, Ashtar command. Instantly, that was heard. Then about 1 hour later, as I was also laying in bed, I heard the same voice say, send your coordinates, longitude and latitude, which I did. So experience number three, India, 2013. I had 2 visits to India in 2012. 2013, I went there for 4 months in India. 2013, I saw in an astral dream a circular disc-shaped spaceship that was more, not vertical, but it was on a slope like this, outside the balcony where I was living or staying for 4 months in Udaipur in Rajasthan. There's a mountain just behind us. Off the balcony, a hill, and this alien or spaceship was parked like this. So I saw it. So that was the first time I'd ever seen anything, a spaceship, right? So later on, I was in Australia, back to Australia after 4 months. On this date, 2013, December 24th, it was a very important date for me, as my wife and I were driving down to Sydney from Foster Tuncurry on the mid-north coast, which is, like a 4-hour drive or more. It was about 4:30 in the morning, and we're on our way to actually get married. So that's why it's really cemented in our brain. So an ultra bright star-like light appeared out of my driver's side window out to the east coast. I live on the coast, so it's out to the east. So an ultra bright light appeared out to the east, and then next time I looked, it was just to the side of the car. Like very rapidly, it moved very close to the car as I was driving north from Tuncurry. It's about 7 kilometres to the turnoff at Failford, and then you go on this really windy road out to the highway and then head south to Sydney. So I'm just about at the turnoff at Failford, and all of a sudden this star that was out on the horizon, like a star, it was right almost above us. And then I turned left onto the road and I started to panic and thought, this is amazing, like really a bit scary. Are we going to get abducted or something like this? This is really going through my mind. And so it's about a 7-kilometre drive through this really windy sort of road from Failford on the mid-north coast out to the whole highway. So I'm driving like a maniac, really scared, wondering what this was. And every time I looked up, it was up above the trees, a big, bright, white light up above the trees, a couple of 100 feet up. I don't know how far up it was, depending on the size of it, but it was super bright, like a star, right above us, just shining down. And I'm driving along this windy road, like 80k speed zone, and I'm flying, 100 and something, really dangerously out to the whole highway. And then I turned left on the highway heading south to Sydney, and then it followed us for about another 15 minutes, and then it took off. And we breathed a sigh of relief because we're on our way to Sydney, like 3 or 4 more hours driving, and we were petrified on that drive. Walked around myself. So yeah, that was really amazing. So that was experience number 4. Experience number 5. I spoke about this morning. I think I was living in Gosford at the time. I saw 3 beings in my room, and I was outside my body in my astral, and I was looking at my body laying in bed, and there was 2 small aliens there. That's the first time I've ever really seen an alien. 2 small aliens, which I would probably call greys now, and there was a taller one, much taller, probably double, triple the size of the height of the smaller ones, and they were doing some sort of, I don't know, astral surgery on my brain. And this was really amazing. And then later on in 2020, this was, I don't know what year this was. This might have been 2013 or a little bit later. In 2020, I spoke to Babaji during a channeling session, and Babaji told me what they usually do is adjust the frequencies or check the telemetry, I suppose, so they can see if they can send and receive messages. And that was that experience. That was really amazing. Something must have happened. Also, around that time, I didn't mention this morning. Also, around this time, I had a very painful shoulder spasm, nerve pain in my right shoulder, and it was really disturbing my sleep for weeks on end. And I couldn't sleep properly. It always woke me up. I couldn't sleep. I was actually sleeping on a lounge chair out in the lounge. I couldn't sleep in bed. It always woke me up. It was really annoying me. I was visited in the astral by 2 or 3 beings, and I saw them looking at me sleeping in my bed. Then they started looking at my shoulder, which had been very painful for weeks. I saw one of them cut with like a scalpel into my flesh in my shoulder and into the muscle, and I actually saw the muscle parted into 2 pieces about 3 inches long, and one of the beings parted the flesh. I saw clearly a blue and red colored veins or arteries or something else inside the flesh that was parted. So if you can imagine seeing a steak or something, a bit of beef, cut it with a knife, part it like that, that was my shoulder. And inside that, I saw blue and red, looked like a vein or artery or something like that. They were working deep in my shoulder. Then when they finished, I heard the words, "Now you've been vampirized." And I thought, well, that's really amazing. But after that night, the pain disappeared and has never returned since then. The shoulder was fine and I could sleep again after, weeks of not being able to sleep at all. So that was another amazing experience. I got no idea who they were. Number 6, I was in a vivid astral dream. I spoke about this morning. In a giant orb, circular orb, appeared from the valley below. I was sitting on the side of a cliff high up, and from the valley below, I saw a giant orb, circular orb like a globe, rise up. And as it came past me, I got zapped up inside this orb, which was a actual spaceship. And as it rose past me, I thought to myself, how massive is that size? And then I heard in my mind, 11 point something kilometers, 11.3 kilometers diameter. And I thought, that's just so massive. You know, like I've seen pictures of UFOs and they're always pretty small, but this was just absolutely massive. Then I was inside this orb ship, and I was, as it was rising up into the sky and way up high, like into space, outer space, and I'm looking out through these narrow rectangular windows that went around it, circular rectangular windows, and I noticed there was a lot of human looking beings there and a lot of high technology. I didn't mention that this morning. High technology monitors. Everyone was looking at monitors and some were looking at the windows. I was looking at the window and also around the room a little bit. So that was that experience, high technology. So number 7 is I spoke about this morning. I was transported onto a ship and spoke to a tall alien inside their spaceship. This being had a triangular shaped head. I was not able to see his face. It was sort of blurred to me. It had a golden outline. Mukta, my wife, was hiding behind me, crouched down behind me. But I was not scared. And the being was talking to me telepathically inside my head, telepathy. The being was asking me about the Kundalini research project, which I've been involved with for since about 2011 or before that even, but seriously from 2011. This being was asking me about the Kundalini research project and was telling me about a planet called Planet Patna in another constellation, and said something like it would be appropriate, this planet would be appropriate for the Kundalini research project. He was telling me also about the brain. Then I saw a huge inverted triangle with its apex pointing down, out in deep space, right out in deep space. As I looked at it, the triangle spoke to me. When in 2020 I spoke to Babaji in the channeling with Jim Charles and told him about it, Babaji said they were seventh dimensional beings and they were very interested in what I was talking about. And their message for me was that show people how to harness the energy of Kundalini. And others are ready to do it now. So this was all recorded and I've sent those videos up on YouTube and Facebook. So that was number 7. Number 8. Okay, number 8, 2017, Enki, one of the Pleiadians that came to me in the channeling in 2020, Enki. So in 2017, 3 years before that, Enki came to me in 2 successive nights and taught me a Kriya Yoga technique, which I won't go into in much detail, but it's all written about in my book on Kriya Yoga, my second book that I've written, finished in 2020. Enki also asked me after he taught me this technique, initiated me into this technique, ask Ananda Kapila if he knows Enki Kriya. And Swami Ananda Kapila was also my guru at the time. And I mentioned it to Swamiji and he thought that was simply amazing. And this year, 2023, Swamiji actually died. Swami Ananda Kapila, Dr. John Mumford died. And I spoke to one of his very close friends, Swami Rudrakali Ananda Saraswati, who knew him very well. And I asked her this year, a few months ago, I said, I was telling her about this, and I said, "Did Swamiji know Enki?" And she said, "Yes, he did." Although Swamiji never told me. He told Swamiji, and she told me, yes, he did know Enki Kriya. So that's number 8. Number 9, in 2018, Babaji taught me a Kriya. So 2020, I was talking to Babaji by Jim. Babaji taught me a Kriya Yoga technique. So so in 2020, when I had that session with Jim Charles, that really blew my mind for many years. Until this year, I'd held on to all that information, and I was just going through my mind, should I talk about this? And I just had to, so it was Babaji, an ascended master, Mahavata Babaji, talking to me, and also Enki, an Anunnaki god scientist, talking to me, and Tolskaha, who is Pleiadian, tall blue Pleiadian, and he's a Pleiadian king, talking to me. So all those messages I've posted, minus some redacted sections. People can check it if they like. And that was really, really interesting, and I'll never forget that. So 2021, in 2021, so this is experience number 11. 2021, I was on a circular disc shape, not an orb, a disc, an orbital shaped disc, and I was shown by a very prominent Russian. I might say it was actually Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, current Russian president. But I might say this is the astral. So physical might be doing anything. The astral can communicate with astral. So this was actually Vladimir Putin showing me below the floor of this disc were 4 propulsion systems, and he was showing me. He wasn't I couldn't hear him speak, but it was him. He was showing me below the floor, below the deck, 4 propulsion systems in each quadrant. 2 of them, I heard the words. One was an ion drive, and the other was a plasma drive. I don't know about the other 2. So that was it for experience number 11. Number 12, this was a real amazing one. 2022, I had a very vivid astral dream where I was in a room where there were 2 human-looking aliens. I knew they were aliens, and they had short brown hair, not blonde, but brown hair, short, and they were wearing skin-tight blue space suits, very skin tight, like around the neck, yes, skin tight, blue, and they had an insignia on the left side, insignia, which I recognise and I've seen a few times before, like Pleiadian. And one of the aliens approached me and said, "You're coming with us." I said to him, that alien, or maybe brother Pleiadian, I said to him, "You'll have to speak to my lawyers." Then out of a nearby room walked about 5 yogis. Out of an adjacent room walked these yogis, and the yogis walked over towards me, and they were sat down at the table with me and the other 2 aliens, and they were discussing me, because obviously those 2 wanted to take me wherever. And the main yogi out of the group of about 5, he had a large tattoo on his forehead, large tattoo. And that tattoo, it sort of rang a bell with me. And he had long hair, Geru robes, orange robes, like he was like a sannyasins, but in the astral, like a really ascended high yogi. So he was they were my representatives from the yoga side. So obviously I had my alien brothers as well, the Pleiadians, and they were talking about me. Anyway, that was number 12. Number 13, I spoke about this morning. This year, 2023, I saw from the outside, I was in the astral, I saw from the outside a long silver ship. And it wasn't circular, it was just long, very long and narrow. And then next minute I was inside the ship, and I was right at the very front of the ship looking down the ship, and the beings inside the ship were actually green. So we've talked about blue Pleiadians with Tolskar, and these beings were green, and that was pretty amazing. And there was nothing said. I just saw them. I saw the ship. I was inside the ship. I saw the beings. And a little after that, I've seen written the words Pleiadian. Now, I've seen many things, and these things are like in my face. I can't help reading them when they're in my face. It's like the Kundalini is just zooming into something, and it's written in front of me. Okay, these are a couple of things I thought about this afternoon. I should add them in. Experience number 15, 2013. I saw myself and my wife Mukta walking underneath the earth, inside a tunnel underneath the earth, which was about 15 to 20 foot wide. As we walked further into the tunnel, in an instant, I sensed an evil, malevolent spirit or an entity approaching from the wall of the tunnel, like from the mountain towards the wall of the tunnel, from the other side of the mountain. Then I heard a noise behind me, and I looked around to my right side, and I saw a being or a man riding a dark-coloured horse approaching me at high speed. And he suddenly produced a large sword, pulled it out, a large sword. Then he swung it towards us, and as myself and Mukta ducked down, I sensed that the entity, the malevolent entity, so we ducked down, and in an instant, just before that entity was flying through the wall of the tunnel, then the being on the horse, as he passed by us, his sword cut the malevolent being in half and saved us. So that was something that's really stuck in my mind this afternoon. I thought I'd mention it, so I added that to the list. Number 16. This was the other one I haven't spoken about. Number 15 I haven't spoken about. This one I've spoken about to my Kundalini Research Project colleagues back in the day, 10, 12 years ago. 2011, I was inside another underground tunnel, and I saw about 20 meters away, inside a tunnel, a small spaceship appeared out of nowhere and landed, and this spaceship looked like a Vimana from the ancient Indian tradition. From the pictures that I've seen, that rang a bell. Then out of that spaceship stepped a being that was glowing white light. He walked towards me a bit, still glowing white light totally, and then he transmitted a square spiral geometrical pattern into my third eye. He shot it out from him, and it just went out and into me. And it was really, really powerful, and it went straight into me. And that experience, I told at the time to all of my Kundalini Research Project colleagues and an artist friend of mine, Joseph. He made that pattern that I told him about the dream into the Kundalini Research Project official logo. Okay, number 17. I was in the astral and I was looking at a photo of an ex-president of the United States of America, President George W. Bush Jr. And I was looking at the photo, just looking at the photo, and a spirit came up out of nowhere and was whispering into my ear. And he said, he's going to do it. Blow the whistles on aliens. And I might mention, well, we'll just have to wait and see if that happens. And I might also mention that in the past, I've seen a few US political leaders and candidates like Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, in the astral, as well as current Russian president while inside a UFO. So experience tells me that they are in their astral bodies at that time. So all these people have astral bodies, and in the astral bodies you can communicate. Don't need a telephone. So that was number, where are we? Number 17. So number 18, I thought I'd mention it, this one. In 1993, so we're going back a few years, 1993, I went to see, in Sydney, I went to see as well as a few gurus I went to see, I went to see a psychic healer. And this person was a female, a Reverend Christine Cole at Bondi, and she was actually a psychic surgeon. So that was really out there for me. But one day I ended up going there and I was laying on a treatment table, psychic surgery. So I don't know if you've ever heard about that, but she put her hand right inside me and I was there looking, and her hand went straight inside my abdomen. I was watching. And I've sent a couple of photos of Reverend Christine Cole to a couple of my friends, Max Rampel, Dr. Richard Allen Miller, and this is really amazing. And you wonder when you see something like this. Actually, in that photo, you can see her fingers going into the body of a 78-year-old or 70-odd-year-old person. So, but I actually saw it. I was there. It was inside my body, and fingers went straight in. She pulled the fingers out, and no scar, no nothing. And she had this thing in her hand and dropped it. And I saw everything. And when you see something like that, you imagine what is matter. Okay, so we're matter, right? So what is matter? Energy. And you really want to look into these light workers and healers. Really, I really highly recommend it. And this is where we're all sort of heading. And I also might mention, before I wrap this up, that as well as wishing everyone a Merry Christmas, because it's Christmas Eve, remember Jesus. And in 2011 and 2013, I had two experiences with Jesus. 2011, I was in Sweden on a Kriya Yoga retreat, and I was actually in a, I don't know if you've seen those float tanks, where there's no noise, no light, no nothing comes inside the float tank. So this is like a 10-foot square base, pyramid base. The water's body temperature. I'm inside this tank for an hour, and I get this message inside my head that Jesus was happy that I was here in Sweden on this Kriya Yoga retreat. Okay, so I won't mention any more about that. So that was my first sort of real experience of Jesus since 1984, when I had another experience of Jesus, and during Yoga Nidra. That was really amazing. And also in 2013, when I was in India, I visited Yogi Ajay Patel in Madhya Pradesh, and he told me the day after I met him that Jesus, who is one of his gurus also, he gave Ajay a message to give to me, that Jesus never turned his back on me. I turned my back on him. Okay, so since that day, I haven't turned my back on Jesus. So he came back into my life. Jesus came back into my life, and Jesus is a great yogi and a prophet. So maybe people want to remember that. So I just want to finish that tonight. So we've been going for 36 minutes. So this plus what I spoke about this morning with Max sort of wraps up everything about aliens so far and UFOs so far. And I just wanted to say also, this is my sort of final talk. On New Year's Eve, I'm doing a talk on astral travel and sort of how it became a big thing in my life. So I just wanted to wish everyone Merry Christmas and wish you all the best. Namaste, Namo Narayan, Hari Om. Bye-bye.